What's going on, y'all? It's your man Mike Titan, and I want to welcome y'all to my first ever episode of Titan Talks. This is pretty much the series where I just randomly take topics, whether they be like, you know, real life topic, gaming topics, and other things, and pretty much just make a kind of like a, not necessarily a Q&A, but just my thoughts on it. I announced this in my 500 sub episode, my 500 sub video where I would start doing this. It's just kind of an idea where it's like I just give myself random topics and then I just kind of like say how I feel about it. And kind of the way that I had in my mind was like I was going to be like surrounded in darkness and just have like a single spotlight on me. But since I don't have a spotlight, that's kind of not the thing. So I'm doing with what I can. So hopefully y'all like this. Leave me some comments below if you want to know, if you want to ask some questions I can ask the next one. I kind of already got questions for the first 3 ones, and this one's going to involve like real life stuff, like religious, you know, kind of real life stuff people deal with. My next one's probably going to be about gaming, and then I'm probably going to have a third one about music. But if you want to leave some questions below, I'll more than surely put them down with the rest if they're good enough, and we can go on from there. So let's go ahead and start Titan Talks scene. Man, child support is a funny thing because, you know, not to you know, dog females, but there are some evil females in this world. Like, you know, like sports people, like athletes have it the worst. Like there are females that'll just get knocked up just so they can be secure for 18 years and not even really care about the baby. But then again, there's the flip side of like the deadbeat dads who like get somebody pregnant and then they like, you know, go to jail, or they just don't care about their child. You know, I've had friends who don't have fathers in their life. I was lucky enough to grow up with my father before he passed away a couple of years ago. So, you know, child support, it's one of those things that just depends on who you believe. Like there's been some ugly custody battles where, you know, one side just like the mother hates the father or the father hates the mother, and then, you know, the child's just the one left out. That should be the main concern. Like I'll put it like this, like if you feel mature enough to have sex, or unprotected sex, or I don't give a crap sex, then you're mature enough to take care of a child. Like it's, you know, simple as that. Like if you don't want to be put on child support, wear a condom or be abstinent. You know, one of those two things. Now I know news-wise this is a little old, but the incident in McKinney where the police officer had to detain the little girl and there was a video and everything. It's two sides to this coin, because some people are like, oh, it's a white cop, black child, black, you know, black pool party, stuff like that. I've actually been in a similar situation, not exactly similar, but a similar situation where I got stopped by a cop. One was white, one was black, and I had a gun pointed at me. Like I was working out. Like long story short, I was working out in the alleyway, and some old lady thought that I was looking over a fence, which I really wasn't. I was like doing wind sprints down the alleyway, and she called the cops. As soon as I walk out the alleyway, there's a cop car there, and I have like earbuds in my ear, and like I got on shorts and a hoodie. So, you know, I put my hands in my pocket to pause my iPod, and bam, they just like pulled out the gun, and I was like, all right, man, it ain't that serious. But my whole thoughts on the McKinney situation is like, you got to think about it like this, and this may rub some people the wrong way, but I know that there are good cops and there are bad cops. My dad's best friend was a cop, so growing up he would kind of school me on some stuff about how cops work. There are good cops, there are bad cops. That's just in general, like anywhere. There are cops that profile for any race. You know, maybe white cops profile for black cops, white cops profile for black people, Mexicans, minorities, stuff like that. But you got to remember this. In our country, the police have literally any right to kind of do what they want to, in a sense. Because you got to think about it. Like, think about if you were in his position. You're at a pool party full of like 20 or 30 kids. It's just you and another cop, and you're trying to detain this one girl, and you have like a whole bunch of other kids run up. Now, I will get you wrong. He was messed up for pulling out his gun on the kids. You know, he probably should have did like a pepper spray, maybe if you want to go to the extent of taser. But imagine yourself in that situation. Imagine yourself being a cop, being surrounded by like 30 or 50 teenagers. Now, teenagers that are well, you know, maybe 1 or 2 you could take down, but like if you're surrounded by 50, like that's 50 of anything you're surrounded by, you're just gonna be screwed. So I don't fault the cop for feeling threatened, I do think he should have handled the situation a little better, where it's like you shouldn't pull out guns on kids. Like, that's just teenagers, kids, like that's just like, that could end somebody's life. So that was messed up on excuse me, messed up on him. And you also got to remember, like, if you just do what the cop says, your life will be a whole lot easier, because he has the power to use whatever he deems, you know, correct to detain you. So if you're kicking and screaming and throwing up a fuss, you know, he's gonna get a little physical with you. That's just common sense. Like, me personally, if a cop stops me, I'm like, all right, I know that this man has all the power in the world to stop me if he feels threatened. He has the power to shoot me if he thinks I'm reaching for a weapon. He has the power to tase me, power to slam me on the ground, like all that stuff. And you know, that's why they starting to get serious about wearing body cams. But you know, my whole idea is like, the kids, you know, y'all should have just listened to the cops. If y'all would have just been nice and orderly, you know, you wouldn't be slammed to the ground. This wouldn't have been that big of a deal, and you could have continued the pool party. But you know, black kids today, black kids in general, are kind of taught to like resent the police. But you know, that's a subject for another story. Gay marriages. So they legalized gay marriage. Cool. I'm okay with it. I have no problems with it. I have coworkers, friends who are gay, you know, so it doesn't bother me at all. My whole thing about it, here's my whole thing about it. If two gay people love themselves enough and want to go through the same stuff that married people go through, like, you know, marriage licenses, taxes, arguments, stuff like that, then let them go through it. You know, people bring up the whole religion thing is like, you know, oh, it's against the Bible and stuff like that. I mean, it's like, you know, if two people love each other, they should have the right to be recognized as a couple in the law's eyes. You know, that's just how I see it. You know, I don't have no problem with two dudes getting married. I don't have no problems with two girls getting married. You know, and especially because, you know, I live in Texas. You know, this is a how you call it? Not Republican, a conservative state. So it's like they're stuck in their old ways of like the 60s and 50s. But yeah, I mean, you know, I'm all for gay marriages. I have no problem with that. Two people want to be happily married gay, let them be happy. You know, that's how I feel about it. The whole Caitlyn Jenner thing, I have mixed feelings on this. You know, I have no problem with him or her or whatever it classifies itself as now. You know, I don't have no problem with, you know, them being themselves and wanting to be a woman. The one thing I did have a problem with is the ESPYs, when she got an award for the Courage Award. I don't know how I feel about them. I mean, I understand why ESPN did it. She was a hot topic at the moment, so they just capitalizing off of that. Like, that's just business 101. But giving her the Courage Award for changing genders, I mean, it's like that's like giving somebody the Courage Award for like bleaching their skin from like being black to white. It's like, I don't know. I don't agree with them giving that. I think that should have went to somebody else, way more deserving than that. But you know, Caitlyn Jenner, you know, I do think it's weird. I think it's unnatural. I think it's wrong in a sense to want to change your sex. Like, I can understand you want to be gay. Like, if he was just a man and wanted to be gay, that's cool. But you know, you're like, what is he, like 50, 60 something now? Your old man wanting to become a woman, and like, it's like it's not natural. Like, that's not what God made you to be. He didn't make you a woman. He made you a man. Now, if you want to be a man and act like a, you know, be a man and be gay and act like a woman, you know, that's cool. I find that more socially acceptable than just wanting to, you know, be a tranny. But I mean, I don't know. It is what it is. That's his / her decision. So, you know, more power to him. I mean, it's definitely been in, you know, the media's eye and name for the past month or so, however long it's been since he did it. So, you know, good for him. You know, he had the courage to do it, but I still think they shouldn't have gave that ESPY to him. That was religion. I have this old saying, cause I'm not a real religious guy. Like, I don't go to church that much. and that's just my personal belief. I have this whole saying that I've heard people say that I've kind of went by. It's like, I believe in God, but I don't believe in religion. Because the whole thing about religion is, you gotta think, this is how I'm thinking about it. So they had it back in the, when the Meeks inherited the earth and God and all that stuff. So they originally wrote the Bible. So the Bible's been through many translations over the past centuries, years, millennia, stuff like that. So the Bible that we're reading now is probably, may be like 20 or 30% of what the original Bible was supposed to be. And also you got to remember, that was a different time. That was before they had electricity, before they had clean water, all that, before they had all the other, all that other stuff. So that was a different, that was almost like a different world that they lived in back then than they do now. So I do believe in God. I do pray in my own way. I just, me personally, I don't feel like I need to go, and before I say this, because I know that some people are going to have some problems with this, don't get me wrong. For people who like church, that's cool, but I don't feel like I need to go to church and have somebody tell me how to live right, how to praise God and stuff like that. Because I know, like, do unto others that you would do to yourself. Treat your common man with nice and respect. Don't mess with nobody. Stuff like I understand that. And then people saying like, oh, smoking and drinking is a sin. I'm like, you know what? It may be, but for some people, that's how they cope with stuff. For other people, it's not. So I don't know. And then you got to think about it. You got different branches under religion. So you got like Catholics, Christians, Buddhists, whatever the Japanese praise. So it's like you got different religions, and it's like, it's funny because like some religions have multiple gods, some don't. And it's like, I just don't really mess around with that. Like, it's like, I believe in God, I pray for him, I pray to him, I just, it's like, there's people out there who need that little pep that church gives them, that be like, what, you can do this and use this and praise God and stuff like that. I don't feel like I'm one of those people that need that. I feel like I'm one of those people who I just naturally believe in myself. I naturally know that like anything I put my mind to, I can do. And through praying to God and stuff like that, like I know he's always watching over me and stuff like that. It's like I don't feel like I need to go to church to hear that. Like, my girlfriend plays drums at her dad's church, so I go with her out of respect for her and her family, because I love her and I'll support her on anything she does. But if I wasn't with her, which I plan to be with her probably the rest of my life, I probably wouldn't go to church at all. And it was funny because my mom would always try to get me to go to church like as a kid, and I was like, I told her like, I'm not really feeling this. It's cool and all, but I don't see the need for me to go to church. So that's just how I feel about religion. It's like, I believe in God, I believe in Jesus, I just don't believe in religion. That's just my beliefs on it. I know some people have different views on it, but I'm just like, hey, if religion's for you, that's cool. If going to church, every Sunday, every Monday, 4 or 5 times a week is for you, that's cool. It's just not for me. It's like, I have my own beliefs that I believe in, and I don't feel like I'm a person that needs to go to church to hear the good word every week, because I just naturally, I just naturally feel good about myself or something like that. Whatever it's that. But, tomato, tomato. You believe in church, you believe in religion, go for it. You don't,